Hello and welcome to this round 4 of Grand Prix Prague, and we get a chance to see two players who've been around the block a little bit when it comes to high-level Magic play. On the left of our screen, that's Ben Sek from Australia, previously living in the US, currently living in Barcelona, Spain, and he's up against Thiago Rodriguez. Each of these players currently at a perfect 3-0 start, so just 3 more wins for them to be able to lock up their spot in day 2. And it's Rodriguez that gets the first creature onto the battlefield in the form of Thermo Alchemist, so now he is going to be a deck that's going to appreciate all the spells that he casts. Meanwhile, Cathodian on the other side of things for Ben Sek. One of the creatures that can meaningfully attack into a Thermo Alchemist, because 3 power will be plenty. Satyr Wayfinder. So this is going to reveal a top 4, and a land will be able to get picked up. And, well, we can see that this is a 3-color deck, and the Satyr Wayfinder does help set up that 3rd color. No real way of knowing just yet where the splashes lie. So Thermo Alchemist, a pretty solid way of getting damage in consistently, and once you have lots of instants and sorceries, it's able to deal quite a bit of damage.
Was it in Eldritch Moon the first time?
Yes. Heliod's Pilgrim here coming from Ben Sek. So this lets him pick up an aura. It could be an aura either to improve his own creatures, or potentially even a Faith's Fetters to deal with something on the other side of the battlefield.
Eldrazi Conscription would be
That's the big boy.
The biggest target.
I mean, that is the biggest aura that ever there has been in the history of Magic. 8 mana, +8/+8, does a little bit of everything. Is it 8 or is it 10? It's an awful lot of mana.
It's 8 mana. It's 8 mana. +10/+10, right?
Yeah. As things stand here, Eldrazi's Conscription, not the one that's being gone for here. It would take a little bit of time to
well, with the Custodian, just for example, like we've seen a couple rounds ago,
Phyrexian
Tower, sacrifice Custodian,
make
he has
5 mana, yeah. There is potential. There are some very cool combos in Ultimate Masters. It's kind of a really interesting one to see. Sort of, this is a weird smorgasbord of different flavors of Magic across the years that all working together to mean that we can make some pretty rad decks. Mad Prophet there coming down for Rodriguez, so he's got an opportunity to rummage. He can tap to discard a card and then draw a card. Everyone likes Prophet. In the meantime, Ben Sek's deck appears to be a straightforward 2-color deck. If anything, a little bit short on red mana. Casts an Undying Rage there. Has to tap at least 1 mountain to be able to get that done.
Looks like Ben mulligan this game, because he looks very short on the card. It's 5, 6, 7, 8, and 2 or 3 cards in hand.
Yeah, not necessarily in great shape, though. His red-white deck, I mean, normally with red-white decks, you assume they're going to be fairly aggressive, and thus far his deck playing out that way. And a follow-up there. Safehold Elite. Persist 2/2.
It's 9 cards on turn 5. So it's a lot. It's at least
9 cards on turn 5 with one of them having been fetched with Heliod's Pilgrim.
No, that's like...
Oh, okay.
That would be 10 cards, but
okay.
like not counting the aura.
So Rodriguez here under a little bit of pressure, but possibly not as much pressure as Ben Sek really ought to be able to bring at this point.
Urban Evolution in Thiago's hand. So it is indeed at least a 4-color card. Oh, look at this.
I like it. Prismatic Lens just setting everything up, and the Twins of Mara Estate coming down.
It's an aggressive mana tapping.
Yep.
I like the 2.
So these little girls being played with Madness, Mad Prophet being activated. The clue's in the name there, as in terms of which mechanic Mad Prophet works well with, and the clue is not the word Prophet. Madness, for just 3 mana you get to play the Twins when you discard them, and that's exactly what happened there for Rodriguez. Madness also a way of potentially casting things that would normally be sorcery speed at instant speed. Whenever it is that you happen to discard them, that's when you get to potentially cast them.
No bluff here, you just have to attack.
And the follow-up here, well, it's Prophet all round, apparently. Prismatic Lens, potentially the glue that's going to hold all sorts of things together for Rodriguez, allowing him to draw mana of any color, use it for mana of any color. This was a card that was a big deal in Time Spiral And it will potentially allow Urban Evolution. But first up, we're going to get Young Pyromancer, which means there'll be even more value out of Urban Evolution. Urban Evolution, right now, it will generate a token, it will untap Thermo Alchemist, it will make a token, in addition to everything it just naturally does. In the meantime, we see Fire Ice also triggering that Thermo Alchemist, triggering that Young Pyromancer, killing off a Mad Prophet. This is
all the value.
So much value.
It's all of it.
Yeah. Fire Ice, 2 damage. Yeah, so that was enough for Mad Prophet.
Wait for the Urban Evolution.
Oh my god.
That's the one that's going to be play an extra land, deal 1 damage,
make a creature,
and, draw 3 cards.
Yeah. If all of those things combined aren't enough for you, then quite frankly, you're a greedy person. Fiery Temper there being used to deal with Mad Prophet. So all of the profit dealt with. Meanwhile, the value very much on Thiago Rodriguez's side of things with his collection of creatures. I love it. Look at this. So many different colours of mana represented in Thiago Rodriguez's mana base, but it all seems to be working out fairly well. That Satyr Wayfinder doing a little bit of work early, finding a swamp, Prismatic Lens, and now Urban Evolution.
This is most likely a Kudamaz Reach in Thiago's deck. Somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Here's a Terramorphic Expense to fix this mana a little bit. Play 2 lands.
In some respects, there's different schools of thought when it comes to what you most want to open in Ultimate Masters. Obviously, there are some very powerful bombs at the high end of the power curve for this set. It's not got Ultimate in its name for no reason. But there are definitely some people that are just like, all right, how greedy can I get on my mana? Do I have the Terramorphic Expanse? Do I have the Kadama's Reach? What can I start to try and merge together here so I can play all of my most powerful cards? And it looks like Thiago has had a collection of lands that means that 4-color, very achievable.
Yeah, I'm not surprised Thiago is actually running this kind of deck because, well, he's very experienced in this format. I've seen him play in Liverpool already. Mm-hmm. He was on it already and at the pre-release, at the first draft. And he likes to go a little deep. So him going 4 colors and splashing Urban Evolution and playing decks that have a lot of little interactions, that's typically the Brazilian player.
I mean, honestly, like, this is one of the reasons to play Magic, is having these weird combinations that you get to piece together.
Like, this is all value cards.
Yeah.
And I think I saw a Vengeful Rebirth in his hand.
Oh, wow.
It's just more value. And I would not be surprised to see a Blast of Genius, for example. Like, all these cards that are very... if you're not playing blue-red, you're like, oh, but should I splash it? It's going to be a little stretch. But here, I would not be surprised to see a Blast of Genius here.
And the Thermo Alchemist is one of the principal damage dealers. Pulsar Marassa has allowed for some life gain to get creatures back from the graveyard, to make more tokens, to untap Thermo Alchemist. But in some respects, any spell would have been a pretty solid start. And we see Thiago Rodriguez here able to continue with his any spell plan very, very nicely indeed here.
Here we go, the Kadama's Reach I was talking about.
I mean, Kadama's Reach, when it's also making tokens, when it's also generating damage in the form of Thermo Alchemist untaps, it was already good before it was doing any of those things, but right now it seems like Bensek, on a mulligan, a little flooded. I mean, what's he meant to do against a board like this?
You know what I would not be surprised to see as well? Lab Maniac.
Oh, yeah.
That would be sweet. I'm actually rooting for the Maniac here.
Lab Maniac is a very, very cool card. Laboratory Maniac, originally from Innistrad. The Human Wizard, just a 3-mana 2/2, but if you would draw a card while you have your library has no cards in it, you win the game. And it's one of those strange little individual one-offs that can really change the way that you play out your deck, because you know that you have inevitability against an awful lot of things.
Yeah, and Ben just going through the motions here. I don't think he realistically thinks he can win this game.
Yeah, this is all about learning things for game 2 and 3, right?
Yeah. Wants to know as much as possible from Thiago's deck. Like, Thiago's had enough now. Like, okay, well, I'm gonna finish this game now. I need to show you more, even though I showed you most of my deck already.
Yeah, that was a pretty nice one.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, rough beats there for Bensek, not quite able to piece things together. There's these players reach to their sideboards trying to find some new options there. And Sigil of the New Dawn, an interesting one when you see the amount of mad profits that are being thrown around in this particular matchup.
And this is like the way Thiago played this game is exactly what you want to do. And you know when you draft a deck, you're not really sure how it works. And you play it between the rounds against your friends. Like, oh, my deck is doing so many awesome stuff. And you hope it works the exact same way during the rounds. Have you had that? And then like a pre-release
it's definitely one of those things that it can work different ways when you actually play things out. And in some cases, it's like oh, thank goodness. Yeah. Oh, my goodness. It seemed like a good idea, but this is not something I've tried before. Turns out we did it. It's fine.
And this is what makes like good players better players. Like even though I'm pretty sure Thiago knows about this deck, about the 4-color madness, 4-color. Now, madness would not be the right word for this because it would be a keyword.
This is just 4-color value.
4-color value, yes. The 4-color value deck. He knows how it works, so it's not exactly a new thing. He's not experimenting this. But sometimes in the draft, like, well, I'm going to go a little out of my way here and I'm going to try something new. And you really hope it works.
Well, yeah, I mean...
Because it's unconventional strategies.
And you often need to have a fairly good understanding of the format as a whole to really be able to leverage that. Because sort of, like, if we take, for example, in Guilds of Ravnica draft, when you first try and draft the Gates deck, the deck that has access to all of the different colors of mana, there are some cards that are very obvious payoffs that literally say, blah, 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 Gate. But equally, it might be that the way that deck works is that you need some powerful board sweepers, some really big justifications to be in 5 colors.
And how much can you splash?
Yes.
I mean, if you have, for example, like 2 or 3 blue gates, and you're not playing blue, would you play your Cast Duplicate? Stuff like that.
Yeah.
This is something that actually happened to me last GP.
Oh yeah.
I was playing the gate deck, and I was just splashing blue for Guild Summit and Cast Duplicate. That was my only blue spells.
I've done the just splash the Guild Summit. I didn't have the duplicate, but I like that deck quite a bit. But it is a roller coaster ride, and in some respects, every time you play it, it still remains that way to some extent because it's very contingent on the real specifics of what you end up in terms of the payoffs, the exclamation points on your deck. So the mana fixing very important for Thiago Rodriguez, but more so than that, really, is what's the payoff for him doing it. So. He, in that first game, had the young Pyromancer. He had the Thermal Alchemist.
He had everything. The prismatic lens, that was huge as well.
Any spell that he was playing, he was getting so much extra value on before worrying about the fact that the spells themselves, in many cases, were value spells. I mean, Nissa's Renewal is a bit of life gain and get a card back, but when it's also triggering things that care about spells, now we're talking. Sadly, we're talking about mulligans on Bensek's side of things for the second game in a row, though it looks like just a single mulligan for him on a mono-white opening hand.
Yeah, his deck does not look as powerful as Thiago's.
I mean, very few decks would look as raw powerful as Thiago's in Game 1 because he was firing on all cylinders. Though, interestingly, I suppose, for Thiago, it wasn't like there was one card that was like the busted card that you were excited to open. Everything was good.
And if you have your mana working, it's easy peasy. Opening with a Thermorphic Expense, it's also...
Now this is interesting. Wandering Champion comes down for Bensek. Thiago Rodriguez, normally we would see a Thermorphic Expanse cracked at the end of turn, just before you draw. Here, Rodriguez, he's waiting around a little bit, which presumably means he doesn't know which colors he really needs just yet.
Yeah, so if it's just to not play anything on turn 2, you'd rather wait for to draw another land, just to make sure not to get the wrong land. If you're just missing the 3rd color, the 4th color, you wait to see which one you draw first, and then you get the other one. To not be in the situation when you go fetch your island, for example, and you're missing your forest, and then you draw an island on the next turn, and then you're just not able to cast your green spells.
So Kitchen Fink's the play there for Bensek, so he's got a reasonable force of attackers down, and the Kitchen Fink's, of course, relatively tenacious with that persist ability. Meanwhile, Rodriguez, he's doing it. 3 different lands on the first 3 turns of the game. What's he going to do with all that mana?
How does persist work with the new Teysa?
It says when this creature dies, so I guess that the persist trigger happens twice, but obviously it's just in play, so the second trigger won't do a whole lot, would be my guess. But we shall see. Hissing Iguana coming down there for Rodriguez.
Sorry, I tried to trick you here.
That's fair enough. It's a weird one. It's definitely not a straightforward interaction. Fate's Fetters coming down, meaning that we can get a big old attack in for Bensek here. His life total moving entirely upwards at this point, up to 26 now as he knocks Rodriguez down to 11. And this kind of a tempo attack early on is what Bensek kind of needs to be doing. We know that he can't wait to take a mulligan.
Yeah, he can't take it to the mid game or to the late game because his deck is not able to wait that long to win at that stage.
All right, so here's a Mad Prophet. I feel like that if we were looking for a name for this deck, I would call it Mad Prophet, not because of the card itself, but just because that's what this deck achieves over the course of its various value plays.
Choose a Mad Prophecy? No.
Transcendence. That's the end, according to this particular Mad Prophet. It's got haste, so it can rummage immediately, but in this instance, no pressing need to. Nice to be able to keep it up as a blocker. I like the Iguana here. One on each side of the battlefield.
Iguana is really good with Kitchen Finks as well.
Yeah.
Because he would trigger twice.
All right. So everyone's going to be taking a whole bunch of damage from creatures dying, but first off, this Mad Prophet will...
I think just Thiago will take the damage.
Well, there's an Iguana underneath the Faith's Fetters.
Oh, that's right. So, never mind.
But I mean, as things stand...
That's right. I totally forgot about this one. It's just under the white card. It's actually a pretty good way to lure your opponent's attention away from the Iguana. Put the Face Fetters on top of it.
As things stand, Ben's life total so high that he doesn't really need to worry about a little bit of incidental Iguana damage, whereas on the other side of things a little bit trickier.
It's pretty good.
Living Law there, taking an Urban Evolution.
Problem is that the Iguana is gonna finish things off here, because with Thiago on 6 life, it won't take a long time for the Iguana to deal 6 damage.
Yeah, I mean, Kitchen Finks attacks in. You either take
a 1 or 3.
And then it comes back. Oh, interesting. I like that. Emancipation Angel.
Reckless Charge.
Yeah. So the Reckless Charge there, giving +2 attack and haste to the... +3 attack, apologies, and haste to the Emancipation Angel, meaning that Ben did not need to worry about recasting that Faith's Fetters at some point in the future, just had enough damage to be able to square things up. And yeah, we saw a little bit more fight there from Bensek. Thiago not able to piece together the elaborate puzzle that is his value deck in Game 2 in quite the same way that he was in Game 1. And that means that we will, of course, have a Game 3 and plenty of time for it, as these guys still about half an hour or so left on the round.
Yeah, Thiago's worst matchup is probably a deck that can put enough pressure for him not to align all his lands, all his colors, and put strategy in motion. So playing a 3 power on turn 2, 3 power on turn 3, a removal on turn 4, that's a very good way to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I would almost say that these decks exist at the opposite ends of the greediness spectrum. That Bensek's deck, it's not necessarily doing anything particularly flashy at all. Yeah, that's exactly the word. But what it will do is punish decks that are trying to be a little bit fancy with what they've got going on. And often the way that works out in practice, where those decks come from, is it's not from a lack of desire to do something cool and flashy. It's more a matter of sometimes you open a pool that if you've not got the powerful top end, you're much better trying to get in underneath it. Especially, this is a gigantic GP. It's not like you're going to not see the powerful cards somewhere in the room. If you can't, on turn 6 or 7, tussle with whatever that turn 6 or 7 bomb might be, then you best make sure the game doesn't go to turn 6 or 7.
Yeah, we haven't seen any real good cards from Ben's deck. He mostly won with commons and the Kitchen Finks, but that's uncommon.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't even a kitchen finks that was doing anything for full value. It was a 3-2 for 3.
Yeah.
Um,
Now the Angel is pretty good in this matchup since Thiago has ways to block on the ground with Young Pyromancer and other just random blockers. But we haven't seen many ways to actually deal with the flyer. He has removals,
Yeah.
sure, but they don't cut 3.
yeah, and any time that the removal is going to have to sort of cost more than the thing
Yep.
it's removing, that's still not super efficient, and that's kind of a little mini win for Bensek, I suppose.
A mini win.
A mini win.
Okay. We'll see how many mini wins we can see in this tournament.
Absolutely. These guys going to their opening sevens. We'll see whether or not Ben can actually keep a 7-card hand. I mean, he managed to pull it out there on a mulligan. This time it is Thiago's turn to send things back. And I guess this is one of the dangers about the mana base that's got lots going on.
Yeah.
If your lands and your spells don't line up, it's the classic easiest way to lose the game of Magic. And it is one of the challenges that you face when you play a deck that's doing more complicated things with its mana.
So Thiago went through like a roller coaster of emotions here. So he had, I don't know how many buys he had. I think he had 2.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say he had 3. He just started his tournament. He plays his first game. Everything is perfect. All the mana, all the combos, everything. Like, oh yeah, my deck is perfect.
It was a Dear Diary moment.
Like I built my deck perfectly. Then game 2, you just fall short to a flyer with a lot of power. And then you're like, okay, well, my deck's still good. We saw that in game 1. And then game 3, you're like, oh yeah, I have to mulligan. I don't have the mana. Don't have the lands. This is
All right.
this is the roller coaster of the.
Phalanx Leader. This is one of those cards that can potentially create early starts that are a little bit scary.
He does have way to make any colors.
I like it.
Yeah.
Sneakily gets down a Fume Spitter to deal with the Phalanx Leader before it can create problems. Took a little bit of help to get there, but Emancipation Angel, not as exciting when you had to pick up your turn 3 land, but a 3/3 flyer, as you noted already, Raph, in this matchup, might just go the distance. What do we have coming along now for Rodriguez? Wickerbow Elder. It comes into play with a counter. You can remove that counter, that -1/-1 counter, in order to get rid of an artifact or enchantment.
So face fetters, for example.
Unless there's a Faith's Fetters on the Elder itself.
Yeah.
All right, Undying Rage on an Emancipation Angel. That Undying Rage immediately getting dealt with by the Wickerbow Elder. And in some respects, Rodriguez not only happy to get rid of the annoying enchantment so he doesn't take as much damage, he's now dealing more damage, as that's now a 4/4 Wickerbow Elder coming through. Oof.
Oh wow, Maelstrom Pulse.
Payoffs for all of these colors here. Able to cleanly remove the Emancipation Angel.
Not sure about the Undying Rage here on the previous turn.
Yeah,
Unless Ben has another like good enchantment to play. He was just giving Thiago's 3/4 +1/+1 counter pretty much.
I guess we will find out soon enough what else is lurking in Sek's hand as an attack for 4 comes in from that Wickerbow Elder. Just 12 life left remaining for Ben Sek now. And Cathodian along with a basic land there. The Cathodian, its ability of when it dies it generates 3 mana, not something that actually comes up super duper often in this format, but it can happen.
Well, the Elder could have been like a green ritual. How would you call that? A natural ritual? Dark ritual would be for black mana. How would you go it for?
Yeah,
green
Ritual of
mana?
Life maybe.
Ritual of
Ritual
Life?
of Nature. I don't know. Green
Yeah.
are looking for more permanent boosts to their mana, I think. So
Yeah, for 1 green mana, sacrifice the Cathodian. Get 3. Well, I guess you don't really get the 3 green mana. You get
you get 3 colorless mana.
3 colorless, 4 green mana. Would still probably be played in a lot of formats if they existed.
Well, there is another enchantment.
All right, so here's the
Conviction alongside Hissing Iguana there.
here's the reason why he wanted Ben to sacrifice to remove the -1/-1 counter on the 3/4.
And if that Phalanx Leader hadn't been dealt with, I mean, Conviction plus a Phalanx Leader is the sort of thing that can gradually turn your entire battlefield into a very scary beast indeed.
It takes a while, but yeah.
Wickerbow Elder coming along here.
Vengeful Rebirth.
Ugh.
Talk about value here.
Yeah, Vengeful Rebirth is the absolute definition of value. You get to get a card back from your graveyard and almost always kill something or somebody. Because it can obviously go at any target. That includes Planeswalkers, that includes opponents.
Yeah, the card should be removed. It should be exiled.
Yes.
Pretty relevant when he has Living Lore in his deck. I don't know if we can fix that.
Yeah, it might be something that we can just get one of the judges to make
I don't
sure
think it's going to be too relevant next couple turns, but just in case.
Yeah,
so we make
a
sure
Living
this
Lord
is-
Vengeful Rebirth would be a problem.
Yeah. Yep. It's been fixed.
Thank you. Our judges on hand able to make sure that all works out for us. And here's a Magmor. So Magmor plus Hissing Iguana, we have various damage coming from Ben Sek when things die. He would kind of like to have a never-ending stream of other creatures to sacrifice rather than the Iguana itself.
Like a Molten Birth.
Ooh, yeah. I like that plan. And
Yeah, but we knew about that one.
we did know about that one. So Magmor getting sacrificed in response to that Maelstrom Pulse just to deal 1 damage, and puts the 1 damage. Looks like it's going on this Wickerbow Elder. That means that maybe it won't want to attack this turn.
Yeah.
All right, so
It's pretty sad to play Magma for 2 damage.
it's not ideal, certainly. But you got to do what you got to do. Thiago Rodriguez taking a little bit of Iguana damage on the way out there, but the life total is very much in Rodriguez's favour here. They're like 8 for Sek to 15 on Rodriguez's side of things. Heliod's Pilgrim coming down. 3 mana, going to get set up an aura of some description.
Face Feathers.
Faith Feathers.
We've seen 2 of them already. Conviction and then Dying.
Yeah, there's that
Sure,
Faith
yeah.
Feathers. Once you have a Faith Feathers in your deck, in addition to some auras that can help out your team, it does make that Heliod's Pilgrim quite a bit more strong.
Yep.
A little bit of flexibility there that it generates. But Rodriguez, I mean, the Wickerbow Elder for him in this game has been a nice one, just giving him incidental answers to that sort of thing. Olivia's Dragoon's coming down, so they can potentially, with the aid of a discard, fly on in at some point. How much different would this game have been if Rodriguez hadn't had access to black mana early on?
It would have been quite different. He would have had like 1 spell, no, 2 spells he could have played.
And in addition, there would have been a Phalanx Leader in play.
Phalanx Leader, yeah.
Yeah, this would have been a very different game.
It's the Mad Prophet
Yeah.
for all the value. There we go.
Immediately trades in a forest for something else off the top. The 4 life gained there from Faith's Feathers for Ben Sek, a pretty big deal. Looks like Moan of the Unhallowed a pickup for Rodriguez. He's not going to be able to cast that one just yet.
So you're willing to trade his Dragoon for a champion. Yeah,
For now, at least, Ben says that he's not going to make that trade. Just take the damage.
yeah, trade 2 damage for 3 damage. Thiago feels confident he will kill Ben before.
Well, how do you feel about a flying double striker to change that math?
Reckless
Sky Spear
Charge.
Cavalry.
Very good combo with the Cavalry.
Oh, yeah.
It's 10 damage in the air. Could be more if you have
the
enough mana
red
to flash back. Yeah. Would be an 8. It was 16 damage in the air.
Reckless Charge was a card that I very, very much liked when it first came along in Odyssey Block.
Yep. I liked it too.
This new artwork there. Still a very potent card. Really does throw off the math on a lot of races. So here comes Hissing Iguana from Thiago Rodriguez.
And the Cavalry, very powerful here.
Yeah, the first strike looking very good against a lot of what's going on the other side of the battlefield.
Yeah, Reckless Charge would be actually game here.
Yeah, there's enough red mana to flash it back.
And there's Faceless Looting in the graveyard as well on Ben's side, so
Let's do it. Get her done.
just to find the Reckless Charge of Pump Spell or a Pump Spell.
Yeah, and we've seen various other auras that can potentially work nicely with that double strike creature. I mean, Double strike, one of those abilities that anytime you see a creature with it, it's scary.
You know it's going to be overcosted too.
I mean, it has to be. I mean, overcosted
It's
might
too
just be
good. It's too
correctly
good,
costed.
yeah. Oh yeah, we knew about that one.
So this is 8 damage in the air from that Undying Rage. Yeah, it has to be a block on the ground here.
Yeah, Dragoon is gonna block next turn. So that's 2 damage from the Iguanar. And 8 in the air. So Thiago is down to 4 life. And he needs another black source to cast his Unholy Hanger.
Yeah, this is pretty tight.
Wow.
Mark of the Vampire, though. +2/+2 and lifelink. That lifelink pretty colossal here. It means that the plan of chump blocking suddenly seems a lot more exciting.
Huh. It's an interesting play because wouldn't you like to find the other black source?
I mean, I think you just need the life right now, right? Because if you set up a
yeah,
situation
no, that's
where
fine. Yeah, he got an extra turn as well because he's gonna be on 12 and he can take a hit from the cavalry.
And the thing is
That's
here
good. That's good. He can chump block and then next turn he's gonna be on.
you lose Ben at 1 in this as well.
Yeah.
If they, I mean, there's not currently any obvious follow-up from Sec. TBS, as he's sometimes known, the Ben Sec.
This is a close game.
It's a super close game.
And like anything from Ben, a blocker from Ben would be great. Even and he can't block with the cavalry, so he needs something.
Yeah, it's a straightforward set of decisions for the cavalry as to what it wants to do.
Like it's not like he could just stay back and block.
So
he has to.
Now we're going to get a chance to see that Faithless Looting flashback.
No, he flashed.
Oh, he's already flashed back. Sorry, my bad.
So is there a blocker here?
I mean, there doesn't
what
need to be a
be?
blocker, does there?
Well, he's on 1.
Oh, sorry, a blocker for Thiago. My apologies. Oh. So Thiago here.
Well, there's no other chance that he has to attack. Oh, he drew 2 lands.
Oh,
he just
rough
needed
draws
anything.
there. And you can see the look on Thiago Rodriguez's face
man.
there.
It was so close.
They both knew
Yeah.
how close that game was ultimately falling out. Mark of the Vampire exactly when it needed to make sure that Thiago Rodriguez getting just enough life to be able to finish off Ben Sec before the big flying double striker was able to close things out for the Australians. So ultimately, Rodriguez advancing to 4-0 on this tournament. So just 2 more wins for him and he locks up day 2. We'll be back with more Magic for you here from round 4 in the form of Time Walk after these messages. and welcome back to this, our live coverage of Grand Prix Prague. I'm Tim Willoughby, this is Raphael Levy, and we've already had a live match here from round 4, but that does not mean to say that we've not had a little cheeky bit of coverage recorded already for you from this round. We're going to get a chance to jump in with some live commentary on what is ultimately a match that happened just a few mere moments ago, that between Alexander Daha and Philip Krieger here. So on the left of our scene, Alexandra, let's see what he's working with. We know that he's got blue. He does not have a second land, so we may be in for a quick game here against Krieger, who has an occasion crier on turn 3, a way of potentially enabling a little bit of madness, but regardless of that, making a whole bunch of citizen tokens, is it? Well, on the other side of things, Daha here, his terramorphic expanse means that he's not going to be able to really cast a whole lot for a little while, even having found a second land.
That's a very aggressive attack here. Like going past the red zone.
And his Iguana is going to team up very nicely with that Crier, as the Crier is a source of lots of creatures. The Iguana, if those creatures die, generate damage. I like where this is going. It looks like Alexandre on the blue-black deck. One of the popular color combinations. A lot of just inherent power within the blue and black cards in this format.
They have very good cards as at common. Dimir Guildmage.
Yeah,
Treasure Cruise.
There's two ways of looking at this format. You can get super excited about what's in the rare slot, and we're certainly not going to give anyone a hard time for that, but there's power in the Nihils across every single rarity that you might find. Dreamscape Artist coming down for Daha, which means that if he does have a splash, you will very easily be able to enable it.
Very easily, that means he draws the third land.
I mean, sure, yeah.
Oh, he's willing to trade Iguanar for a... I think War Leader's Helix here on the artist wouldn't have been that bad.
No, yeah, I mean, this is the kind of the option where the wheels can potentially come off. Just takes the trade there, gets 2 damage in regardless, thanks to the Iguana's triggered ability.
You usually don't want to, play your big removal spell on a small creature, but in that case,
yeah, maybe.
I mean, that keeps Alexandre from getting more lands.
Good Collar's Accomplice there. And this is an activation of that Occasion Crier, generating a couple of citizens.
I mean, the Iguana was actually really good there with the Crier.
Yeah.
Trading for the artist.
It was almost as if he was, especially now that you're using that Woolly's Helix on a comparatively unexciting 2-2.
Yeah.
Some unusual sequencing that we're seeing here from Krieger. It may well be that he's not punished all overly much, as Daha on the left of our screen has had a pretty spotty draw thus far, just finding his third land now when there's already 5 on the other side of the battlefield.
And Philip also has a Rally the Peasant.
Rally the Peasants represents a lot of damage when you have a whole bunch of peasants going on. Stitch Drake here coming along as a 3-4 to dominate the skies. The Zombie Drake that has kind of an enforced delve of 1. Just a pass there from Krieger. He did have a Mad Prophet in hand, so intrigued as to what he's working on here.
Now, why would you want to play your lands when you have a Cry in play? I mean, what do you do? Like, you will want the 6th land eventually, but at first you want to discard your land to have more creatures.
Yeah, I mean, is this him discarding Mad Prophet to make 2 creatures with the intention of knowing for sure that he can double?
I mean, that could be a play. I mean, how many? So it's 5 creatures. Actually, it could work. So 2 blockers, and it'd be 15. Yeah, that works. It's actually a good play.
All right, well, we're going to see it.
Yeah.
Tasiga the Golden Fang is lovely and all that. You know, we're very happy to open one of them. It's a powerful card.
Yeah, that was good.
Double Rally the Peasants with all of these peasants.
Philip realized that Alexandre would not be able to deploy 2 blockers. So playing the 6th land was exactly what he needed to play Rally the Peasants and flash it back for exactly 15 when Alexandre was at 14. So that was actually the right play.
Philip there even just showing us still had all these. Seems a little much when you've still got extra games to play, as we do jump across into our game 2 now. Here's that Dimir Guildmage that we spoke of. At common, just huge amounts of value available for it. Hero of Eros there coming down. Alexander having a little read of that one. It's going to be one that is very straightforward to enchant up and potentially get in a lot of damage with.
Undying Rage.
Undying Rage on it does seem like a very natural combination. Let's see whether or not that's what Krieger decides to go on, because it looks like he's going to be the one missing land drops here, though missing your third land, not as bad as missing the second. For now at least, decides to widen his board just a little bit. I mean, Krieger didn't really see a whole lot from what Dahah's deck could do, so this way round, that one piece of removal didn't get additional value.
Passing with 4 mana and tapped and a Dimmer Guildmage. Oh no, he didn't pass.
There we go.
Oh, here we go. That's the third land.
Do you just get angry with, because it looks like there's also the potential to get double strike at some point in the future here.
Yeah, I think you get angry.
Let's see what it is that Krieger decides to go with here.
Nope.
Just the attack.
No anger. At least he would have had like an attacker for the next turns.
Yes.
Here, he just leaves himself open to a removal on the target of the Undying Rage.
All right, so Daha here. He's done a little bit better than the last game. He's managed to find lands, and those lands have found him at least one spell in the Dimir Guildmage, and you can potentially, of course, leverage that into still more lands and spells.
Drew him a card already.
Yeah, value.
So yeah.
Deranged Assistant. A nice one, we like that. Working very nicely with the Archaeomancer that he has in hand, which will be able to get something back from the graveyard. More copies of Last Gasp to deal with the creatures on the other side of the battlefield.
Nice attempt to get angry.
Yeah.
We're getting angry.
I feel like Undying Rage is especially appropriate on a Persist creature, because the creature itself is Undying in addition to, well, something similar to Undying at least, in addition to everything else that's going on.
No, we're just mad. Not angry, just mad.
I like it. The Mad Prophet there coming in, 4 points of damage heading Dahah's way. He doesn't want to let that Deranged Assistant die just yet. He's got good work to do. Now, right now, Daha with 3 swamps in play means that he won't be able to cast the big Drake that he just picked up,
or the 1/2 mage.
Yeah, the Archaeomancer just going to have to sit there for now. Another Dimir Guildmage. All right, so there's some power in these blue-black cards.
Yeah, the only problem in playing the Rage on the Persist creature is when you're facing blue and bounce spells. You're not really afraid of removal because, well, your creature is going to come back and then you're going to play your Rage again for only 3 mana. If you get bounced, then you also lose the tempo for playing the creature again.
Speaking of tempo losses, Spell Mastery very much active, meaning that that's 2 life gained there by Daha as he was able to kill off the Mad Prophet. The life total is 16 apiece here, and this time round Philip Krieger, he's not really been able to pile on enough damage to achieve a whole lot, though he does have Acacian Crier that was the architect of his victory in Game 1 in hand.
So here we go, finally.
Points on the board here as Undying Rage comes down on that Safehold Elite, so it gets to attack in for a full 4 points.
An Angry Elf.
Oh yeah.
It's a pretty good pickup here.
Daha, has he found the second source of blue mana? Because being able to get back a spell in his graveyard at this point looks pretty exciting, because he has a whole lot of good spells in there. Terramorphic Expanse getting milled by the Deranged Assistant. That would have been able to find him some more blue mana. Crow of Dark Tidings.
No, but then he can cast his Dig Through Time.
Ooh.
Now he can cast his Treasure Cruise for 1 mana.
We do like a treasure cruise, it must be said. I mean, yeah,
and he has
so much synergy here.
He has the choice. How many cards does he have in his graveyard? 2, 4, 6, 7. He can pay 2 mana and leave 1 card in the graveyard to be able to retrieve it with the Archaeomancer.
I like the way that looks. It seems like a solid play for the turn.
Really depends on how much he wants, how much he needs the untapped land on that turn. So yeah, I believe he's gonna leave a last gasp in the graveyard, or the unholy hunger.
It seems to me like leaving the last gasp in means that you can play your Archimancer and play your last gasp in the same turn, which is kind of a attractive move.
Yeah.
And it looks like Daha agrees.
And making the elf 1/1 becomes easy to block.
Yes.
Did he find his second island?
He found in all his dust. So if things go on long enough, then we can potentially...
All his dust does not actually do that much here.
Well, he doesn't have enough mana, is the first thing.
Well, no, he has 5, but all his dust would not get rid of the elf.
Yeah, it would still come back as a 1/1. The Undying Rage would still go back to hand for Philip Krieger.
And he would lose his whole board.
Normally, it's a great answer to almost everything that could be going on the other side of the battlefield. But yeah, you're right, Ralph. In this case, Philip Krieger's deck naturally has some built-in defense against that sort of thing. Counter Squall will deal with spells.
We'll deal with the rage, but I haven't been too impressed by all his dust, honestly. It's a very steep cost, 7 mana for a symmetrical effect. It's hard to set up, it costs a lot, and then there's so many cards that just play over it. I mean,
I think
you
still always run it, because sometimes...
I'm not even sure you do. Like, look at this board, it doesn't do anything on this board. If you play it, you lose all your board, and then your opponent still has a 3/3 in play attacking you. And you probably tapped out.
So Crow Dark Tidings here, jumping in the way, generating a trade, but also a little bit more in the way of cards in the graveyard to potentially be a resource in the future. And along comes a Phoenix for Philip Krieger.
Look how good would all his dust here. Would all his dust be here?
All right, fine.
Like the thing
we figured it out.
No, the difference between like all his dust and a Wrath effect of 4 or 5 is that it's much easier to set up at 4 or 5 mana, because you can't afford to take the first damage and keep your creatures in hand. While when it costs 7, you need to play creatures on the board to just not die, because you can't just play lands until you reach 7 and then reset the board, because you're already dead at that point.
Interesting. Yeah, that makes sense.
So the fact it costs 7 is a big difference.
So for Daha here, he can play a Dreamscape Artist, which will in the future mean that he's going to be able to get to the lands that he needs. Alternatively, though, he just elects to use Dimir Guildmage to draw a card, hoping to find lands that way, because somehow or other, even with the likes of Treasure Cruise, Daha has not been able to find his way out of his mana woes.
Wow.
Operating with just a single blue mana here. Loads of cards in hand, but sadly not very much in the way of permanents in play.
Double strike, 8 damage in the air. So many cards in hand and no mana to cast them. And a foil just to twist the knife a little bit. No, I can't play it. Don't even have an island to play. How can I even play it for free?
Yeah, difficult situation there for Alexander Daha. His draws did not quite line up, and ultimately he picked up his first loss of the day. But we have still more Magic in our feature match area. That one was kind of a quick one, so let's see if we can sneak in another one before we get to our next round. We are going to head into game 2 on this one. We don't have time to fit our full match in for you here. Matteo More, he picked up the game win in game 1. It's up against Charlie Trayback here, who is in game 2 on the play. Those unstable lands there from More. Doesn't have an early start, but you know what? We're seeing quite a few of these red-white lists doing well in our feature match area thus far. It seems to be a bit of a trend. 3 forests for Kodama's Reach. Is he going to fetch 2 more forests?
2 casts Gigantosaurus.
I mean, if he is a mono-green deck, then that presumably means his mono-green deck is truly spectacular, because why would you be mono-green if your deck wasn't full of nothing but hits?
Yeah, Gigantosaurus is not in the format.
Gets a swamp and a mountain. That means that all of a sudden his monocolor deck has a few more options available to it. And if you're More, well, red-white tends to be a deck that's more about putting threats out there than answering what's going on the other side of the battlefield, so I don't really know how much that's going to change his plan. Looks like there's a few lands in hand for More still. Has he got a threat yet? It looks like he has not. This is Not an ideal start. I would say more so for the red-white deck than on the other side of things. I mean, a Canker Abomination now would be just a hammer blow for what More has going on. A casual 6-6 on turn 5. As things stand, though, starting off with Olivia's Dragoons, and then we also have some Kitchen Finks. So, threats on the battlefield now.
So a little piece of information here. Charlie played a second Swamp. Well, we know he has a Mountain in hand. So we probably put him on an Holy Hanger in his deck somewhere. It's not much. So why would you play a second Swamp instead of the Mountain that Matteo knows about? That's just not much. Just a little thing.
Containment Priest getting flashed in there at the end of the turn by Matteo More. That was part of the reason he was passing the turn previously.
It's a pretty good answer to Kitchen Finks.
And it looks like More there just confirming the rules interaction.
So I think the question is, if you attack with Kitchen Finks and you sacrifice and you block with a Containment Priest, does the Kitchen Finks come back?
Conveniently, with Fire Ice, it's a much more straightforward interaction.
I believe it does come back because the Containment Priest is not in play.
Yeah, that would make sense to me.
And then Kitchen Finks comes back, doesn't see a Containment Priest, and then it's still in play.
Safe Hold Elite, the follow-up there.
Also, a pretty good combo here.
Safe Hold Elite and Containment Priest. Yeah, they're friends in mana costs, but that's about it. They live uneasy work colleagues.
Yeah, they have like thin walls between their two apartments, and when one puts the music too loud, the other one's not happy.
One of them is Dwight Schrute, and we just need to figure out which.
Yeah. They live in the same house, in the same building, but they, you know. And if there's a fight, they would help each other, but that's about it.
Yeah.
Not even sure they would. Containment is pretty good against Pattern of Rebirth. Yep.
Yeah, Pattern of Rebirth.
Not great.
In abstract,
not
a very exciting card, but that Containment Priest will need to get dealt with. Containment Priest, one of those cards that it has a lot more impact in this format than might first appear.
I actually like this card a lot in draft.
Yeah.
You have to, if you draft, you have to know that you have it in your pile, in your draft cards, because there are a lot of non-interactive cards with it. Cards that would not be happy to be there. It's neighbors.
But yeah, this is one of those spots where, for a while, Matteo More may not even have appreciated quite how much impact it's having here. Charlie Trayback there, essentially taking a turn off to cast Pattern of Rebirth. Ronom Unicorn can now deal with that pattern if Matteo sees a need, but that's not even going to be until Containment Priest has been dealt with.
So I really like Containment Priest with turn 2 Mist.
Ooh, yeah. Just turn it into a straight-up removal spell?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
The first time I used that combo was, against Containment Priest. My opponent had Containment Priest, and I had turn 2 Mist. But now the creature, I exile the other one.
Great.
2 mana, Swords to Plowshares, don't gain life.
Yep, that'll see play every single day of the week.
5 damage coming in there. The Raid Bombardment. Not a card that's... People, I don't know, when you read the cards, like, really?
Yeah, there are some...
3 mana,
especially the enchantments that need a little help, that you look at them and you go, well, on its own, this doesn't really do anything. How much am I willing to... How many of those cards am I willing to have in my deck?
And then I need a lot of creatures. That's a lot of effort.
Yeah. Sometimes it playoffs, though.
Yeah.
So here's a Wickerbow Elder.
That will...
it does have a target in that Raid Bombardment.
Nice bombardment, bro.
I mean, he could even blow his Pattern of Rebirth. It's not doing anything at the moment.
Yeah, I would probably take care of the red one.
Yeah, I think that probably makes sense. The Wickerbow Elder, currently a 3-3, but gets to be a 4-4 now that it's found something tasty to munch on. And Fume Spitter comes along, a ready source of -1/-1 counter. And that, of course, a way of making it so that Persist won't work out as well.
Well, Persist is not going to work out anyway.
There are so many different reasons Persist is not a thing right now on this board. All right, so we've got a Wingsteed Rider. This is a credible threat from Matteo More with a little bit of help from some sort of a targeted effect He's going to be able to make that a giant flyer.
This is my favorite card in hand. My lizard pet.
Golgari Browns.
Yeah.
An innocuous dredger that can just set up a lot of cool stuff.
It's like the poor man's kitchen things. They look kind of the same.
They've got a similar cost.
Yeah.
They
gain 2 life.
Gain 2 life.
They are coming back from the graveyard.
Sometimes the brown scale comes back more.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's the better kitchen things, in a way. You know that any time a sentence is finished with "in a way," that it's not quite all working out. So here's Tassiger the Golden Fang. We like that one. The big 4/5 body that can potentially also create some interesting decisions when it comes to the graveyard.
Well, that's what's going to happen here. It's going to be drawing cards of Tassiger. Not actual drawing cards, but putting cards in his hand.
So Matteo Mori just carefully figuring out exactly what he wants to do in terms of this attack step.
Charlie on 17 life. Unless Matteo has ways to pump the rider, he has some time to take advantage of his Tassiger, of the Banana King.
Yeah, because just a straightforward attack here. In principle, Charlie could just discard a card and admittedly throw quite a lot of cards in the bin by blocking with Olivia's Dragoons. Aha, here we go.
6 damage. All right,
this is a little more exciting.
So the clock is on. Now we can just give it -1/-1, gain 2 life. It's actually not so bad. Yep, that's what he does. So just a 2/2 double strikes. Only 4 damage instead of 6. Probably the best way to use the Fume Spitter at this point.
I can dig it. 13.
And also, there's a Fume Spitter in the graveyard, so that's it could be a target for Tassiger.
Yeah, Tassiger's ability, one of those ones that, when it comes up, very potent indeed. Is that a Murderous Red Cap in hand?
I think it is. That's pretty sweet.
That's a way of dealing with Containment Priest, at which point you have all sorts of things going.
That's true.
Might set off a little bit of a chain reaction as Run-On Unicorn decides that Pattern of Rebirth doesn't want to hang around anymore.
So what do you want to kill first? The priest or the rider?
That's an interesting question, because the danger in targeting the rider is that if there's any targeted ability that can be played in response,
he would have played it on his turn. I mean, he would just like go
all in with the
the double strike. I don't think he would have kept an instant in hand.
Even like a God's Willing? We shall see.
Yeah.
As things stand, Charlie Trayback there is able to deal with Containment Priest, and here come the big attacks. So blocking presumably something big with the Run-On Unicorn that's then going to eat Pattern of Rebirth.
Oh, that was...
Spell Mastery has been achieved, which means that destroying a tapped creature is a perfectly fine choice. And yeah, that little exchange didn't really work in Charlie Trayback's favour at all.
So what... Oh yeah, the Unicorn took care of the Pattern of Rebirth.
It's alright though, he's got a Golgari Brown Scale.
Yeah, that exchange was a little weird. What happened? He had everything, and now he's down by a lot.
Helod's Pilgrim now getting to pick up something useful for Matteo Mori here.
I mean, I like Golgari Brown Scale, but it's not doing much here.
I mean, if you can find an aura that can immediately stick on that Winged Steed Rider, it can again represent quite a bit of damage here.
And he has no cards in hand. Yeah, he's far behind here.
And Hyena Umbra looks to be the card that Matteo Mori is considering. Yeah. That means that Winged Steed Rider would
4
be
damage
for 4.
Yeah. Matteo can block the 4/4 for a little bit. And since he's ahead on life,
this is a tough old spot for Trayback here. I mean, in many respects for Matteo, he doesn't need to fetch something that he can use this turn. He could potentially wait for a more expensive aura that maybe has a little bit more impact, because just on the board he's in good shape here.
Well, if he he's not, like, he's facing a 4/4, so he's okay because he has the flyer and he can race. So if he has a Mammoth Umbra, that's what I was about to say, he can indeed wait a turn. He's gonna attack for 2 and then have the rider to attack with Vigilance next turn and be able to block the 4/4.
Yeah, the Mammoth Umbra will just make it very, very fiddly for Charlie to get involved in the red zone. So swing in for 2 in the air here from Matteo Mori, just looking to get one more game win in here in order to advance to 4-0. 6 wins is what you need to make it into day 2. That's where the drafts happen. We will be bringing you all of that draft action tomorrow morning here from Prague in Czechia.
Yeah, Mammoth Umbra is going to be pretty big here. Yep.
And Charlie just swinging for the
might
fences,
as well
trying to get in damage where he can.
Yeah, take 4. Now Charlie needs a removal like right now for the rider.
A removal spell in response to this Umbra would be absolutely ideal. Tap Celestial Colonnade. There is the Umbra. All right, well, it doesn't look like there's a removal spell in response. And once the Umbra is on,
6 damage.
Totem Armor is a big deal.
It's a 2-turn clock and a flying clock, and that's also a creature to block the 4/4, so there's no...
And there's the handshake.
Back,
Umbra's doing it again, and Windstream Rider there avenging the other red-white deck that we saw in the feature match area, not able to get it done. That is the end of our round here. We will have more Magic for you right after these messages.